Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Top Podcast. I'm your host, Michael, joined as always by my friends Rob and Lou. Gentlemen, how are we doing?
What's up? Jump the gun there.
Cracking back.
We are in sync today. So we like to start the show off with an icebreaker question, and I have a problem with through lines and foreshadowing. So my question today is, what is the most memorable punishment that you ever received? It does not have to be by a parent. It can be by a teacher or a counselor at camp. Anything goes. But yeah, what is the most memorable punishment you ever received? And I believe since I asked the question, I have to go first. For me, it was. I think this is proof that it wasn't an effective punishment because I don't remember to this day what it was that I did, but I did something. My parents were like, "All right, that's it. You're grounded for a week." And grounding in my family was freaking brutal. Like I would rather do a week of being grounded by my friends' parents than like a day of being grounded by my parents. Cause like I would see my friends and they'd be grounded. I'd be like, "Oh yeah, I can't come out. I'm grounded." I'd be like, "Dude, what do you mean you're grounded? Like you're sitting on the couch watching TV." Grounded for us was you get to sit on your bed and think. And if you get tired of sitting, you can lay down. And if you get tired of thinking, here's a King James Version Bible. And that was it. And so I was just begging. I was like, please do not make me do a week. Like, this is insanity. And I think my dad calmed down a bit or maybe took some crazy pills. I don't know. But he came up to my room and he's like, "All right, I'm going to offer you a deal. You get to pick which one you want. Like this, like you can be grounded for the week." Or I was like, "I'll take that one." He was like, "You haven't heard it yet." I was like, "I'll take it." And he's like, "Listen, or we can go out to the backyard." We had a double lot, so we had a really big backyard. He's like, "You can walk all the way across and hug the telephone pole." We had just had like, the wooden pole that the telephone wire running across. And he goes, "And I can shoot you with the airsoft sniper rifle once for every single day you were supposed to be grounded." And I was like, "Dude, yeah, like 100%. That's what we're doing." And so I went out and hugged the pole, and he got me twice. And then he started missing on purpose. Like he'd whiz them past my head, and it was actually worse. Because you were like, "Oh, I'm gonna get that." Yeah, and so the most memorable punishment I ever had was I just got popped 7 times in the back by the airsoft BB gun. Got out of a week in solitary confinement.
How old were you?
Old enough that we were playing with airsoft pretty regularly, so
It doesn't mean much.
probably middle school.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, all right.
But it's just like, do I have to call
then.
CPS?
I mean, it's too late now, but I'm assuming it's too late. But who knows?
Well, and honestly, man, like for real, I'd do it again right in this. Like it was so much better. Like, man, people get spanked all the time. Like that was not, or at least when I was growing up, people got spanked all the time. And it wasn't that much worse. Like 7 shots. He got 7 shots too. It wasn't he got to hit me 7 times. Like he was spending some of those BBs on psychological torture. Because like it's hard to miss somebody's back.
Yeah.
Because that it was a sniper rifle. That thing was accurate. And if he was missing by my head, it means he wasn't aiming for my back.
See, my luck would be I'd shoot
so, like,
trying to miss your head and scare you, and then I'd hit you in the back of the head and give you like a brain damage.
Right.
Yeah, I would I would get your butt. I would just get that thick cheek.
He did that one time. We used to play an airsoft game where one person would get it was like hide and seek almost. You'd bunker down. You'd get to go out and hide and bunker down, and then everybody else would try and find you and shoot you. And I really wanted to play airsoft, and it was just me and him. And he was like, "Yeah, sure, we can play." And so he went and he hid in the woodshed, which had a little crack between like the doors. They swung open. So he's sitting in the woodshed. He's got the sniper rifle. He could have picked me off at any point. But he's just sitting there waiting, like being a good sport, letting me like at least have a fighting chance. And then you remember the sandboxes that were just turtles, and then the top was the turtle shell?
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
We had one of those, and I literally ended up turning my back to him perfectly. And I was like, maybe he's hiding in the sandbox, which is ridiculous. Those things were not big enough to fit a grown man. But I was small, and I just didn't have like the same, like I didn't think about it. And I just bent over to pick this thing up. And so like he was like, "Okay, I gotta," and he just poked the barrel of the sniper out between the crack in the door. And like I stood up real fast. At first I was pretty mad, but in hindsight, I'm like, that's one of the funniest things anyone's ever done. Like, How can you pass up on that?
I wish somebody took a picture.
Right? Honestly, I would kill to have video of that.
Do a recreation.
Right?
We'll get our animation team
That
on
worked.
it.
I thought about this a lot. I didn't get suspended a lot or in trouble very often. I was very sneaky as a child, or I was just a really good kid. But when you said teacher, it really brought me back. So second grade, every month, our teacher would do something good for us. If we had enough green cards, do you guys know what I'm talking about?
They give you money for doing.
Man. I don't know
for doing
anything.
good stuff, and you can like redeem them later. Or is it like
I forgot one was homeschool.
No, or is it the
so
3-tier system where if you're good, you get green. If you do like one mistake, you get yellow. If you do 2 mistakes, you get red. Those?
Yes. So it was the green card system. Yeah. And so, and honestly, thinking back, it was my favorite year of all time because a lot of our class did really well, and so every month we'd have something. So like I remember
been all downhill since second grade.
Well, it was just
Preach.
1 month, but
oh no, it's been all downhill since halfway through second grade.
After that, it was never the same. Waffles never taste the same. Yeah, so we had waffles. We did like board games. There's all types of fun stuff. But 1 month, which I think was like, I can't remember what that was, but 1 month she said, "Hey, I'm gonna bring a fire truck dog if you guys do good." And I'm like, I have never seen a Dalmatian before in my entire life. And I was like, I would love to meet this Dalmatian dog. I want nothing more than meet this damn dog. And the day of, too many people were like horsing around at the damn bathroom line, and she gave us so many chances to chill out, and we wouldn't chill out. And the day of, she was like, "Well, I guess you can't see this dog." And then the freaking firefighter guy, comes walking past us with this beautiful Dalmatian dog with the vest on, and it looked so perfect. And I saw her have the hardest conversation to this fire truck guy. I don't know why I keep saying fire truck, but he walked away, and it broke my heart. I never got to see that dog.
That's brutal.
Yeah. Yep. So I still think about that. Miss Appleter, if you're out there, I respect the hustle, but damn.
Ruthless. See, I'm kind of like Lucian, where I wasn't really that much of a troublemaker, and for the most part, I just got away with stuff and didn't get caught. But I guess what makes it memorable is like the one time I was suspended was just because I was doing stupid stuff. I was this was 10th grade, so 10th grade guys. Not the sharpest crayons in the box. I brought up in previous podcasts that my school did like this they call it spiritual life retreat, where it's a weekend, go away, get high on Jesus and all that stuff. Us 10th grade guys thought it'd be fun to make, like those Axe flamethrowers, which is when you have some a spray deodorant, you hold a lighter up to it and you spray it and, light the flame, and it just makes this giant flamethrower. So we were doing that.
Just like the biblical time.
Just like the biblical times. I mean, we wanted to be biblical. It was a spiritual life retreat. But our dumb butts decided to do it inside like this little dorm room. And we did it. And then it was like super close to the fire alarm. And I wasn't thinking like, oh, I got to get the smoke away. So I sprayed the deodorant like on the fire, on the smoke detector. That set it off. Me and one other guy who brought the lighters booked it out of there. And so it was like this whole big thing. We weren't there. Because obviously, if you commit a crime, you're not going to stay there. They end up bringing back some guy who is actually going to make an appearance later. He freaking snitches on us. And because I didn't fess up to it right away, that I sprayed it, I didn't tell him that it was me. I got a 2-day suspension for lying, even though I just didn't say anything. My friend who was with me got a 2-day suspension for having a lighter. And that became a running joke in my friend group, like, oh, Jake has a lighter. Because he bought it from a gas station.
I've heard you say that before.
I've heard that story as well. Oh, part of that story.
Yeah.
I just heard him say Jake has a lighter, and I was like, oh, that was weird, and just moved on.
Yeah, it's probably with some of the people I was with. So that's when I was suspended because I did not fess up to a crime and someone snitched.
The worst. I got a story about a snitch later on too.
Oh, he comes back. Same guy.
Speaking of which, today's topic is totally fictional, definitely hypothetical stories in which the fictional versions of ourselves break the rules. I got to say right up front, we do not condone law breaking. drug use, misuse of alcohol, or whatever else. Fraud. Let's see what else. I framed somebody fictionally. Whatever else comes
Allegedly.
up. This is this is a fun trip down a hypothetical version of memory lane, but we are not promoting this.
Yeah, most of my rebellious stage was just, doing stuff my mom wouldn't have liked. So I'm gonna sound pretty
tame.
innocent. Yeah, pretty tame.
That's okay. That's not a bad thing. These are all hypothetical anyway. It's not like it really happened. My first hypothetical rule break is the great dog frame job. And we're going to talk about these as if they're real because it would get really old to keep saying hypothetically all the time. But we didn't really do any of this. So allegedly, when I was like, let's see, my sister was young. She was probably like 3 or 4. So I'd have been 10 or 11. My parents used to do a trip to Mexico every year. My dad would save every bit of his fun money because he wanted to go on the surf trip to Mexico. And he'd do it with his whole side of the family. And then we'd get shipped off to my grandparents. And it was kind of great. You get a week off homeschool and you just hang out at grandma's house for a week. And my grandma had this ceramic dog, maybe, 7, 8 inches tall. And it would rest on this little miniature dog bed. Now, I don't know what the context was. But for somehow I picked up this dog. I really wasn't doing anything wildly unreasonable, but somehow one of its paws just broke clean off, like at the ankle. And I was freaking out. I was like, well, I didn't do anything. Like, I shouldn't get in trouble for this. What am I going to do? And I was like, you know what? My little sister loves this toy dog. And it's hard to be mad at like a 3-year-old. So I just set it back down perfectly so that you couldn't tell it was broken and just waited. And later that week, I just hear, Grandma, I think I broke the dog. She was like, oh, that's okay, sweetie. I'm sure you didn't mean to. And I was like, that's right. I got away with it. And like, I definitely could have done the exact same thing in hindsight, but I just completely framed my child's sister. I was like, nah, we'll just let her take the heat for this.
And she took it with striding too. Good for her.
Yeah, dude, she just walked right in. She had no issue.
She's like, well, I guess I must have.
Right? The innocence, just a little kid. It's like, oh, hey, this happens.
Dad's never shot me with a BB gun.
Yeah, I don't know why Jacob and Andrew are so mad that you called him gullible on the last podcast, because that's just being a kid. Like, being a kid, you're just so gullible.
Right. Also, I didn't call them gullible. Rebecca called them gullible. I just implied strongly that they were gullible.
My number 5 is jaywalking. So my father was named Jason, and I just thought that's the way you walk. I thought like walking from corner to corner was just the way to do it. And so at a very young age, I would just jaywalk all the time. Not much to it. So
what does your dad's name have to do with this?
I just thought that like
it was named after him.
Kind of, yeah. I don't really know the process of it. I was jaywalking at a very young age. I think like I remember being in like first grade jaywalking. So and then people used to call my dad Jay. So I was like, and once I figured out that was jaywalking, I don't know. It just maybe like I was representing him. I was carrying the torch of walking in the way of my father.
Dad would be proud.
I just wanted to make him proud. He was the one that'd be like, hey, you shouldn't do that. I was like, okay. I was like, well, my life has changed now forever. Yeah, I love jaywalking still. I still do it a little bit, hypothetically, of course. I wouldn't recommend it, but I have a problem with authority. So
man, I do too.
I didn't really start jaywalking until like college. I feel like that's when the jaywalking really spread to me.
It's funny. I did it less and less as I got older. Like I used to do stuff like that all the time as a kid, and then as I got older, I was just like, whatever. I'll take the extra 10 seconds. We were biking somewhere as a kid. We were just like biking through a neighborhood, and it's not the same as jaywalking, but I was just like, it was a residential street. Like it was not like I was driving down Ford Road on a bicycle, right? And I was just like weaving back and forth, having a good old time. And I actually got pulled over by a cop who was like, you're driving your bike on the wrong side of the road. I was like, dude, what? Like,
what a freaking tryhard.
For real. I was like, dude, I'm 15. I'm riding a bike. I'm not vandalizing anything. Who cares? Why are you stopping me in the middle of, again, a neighborhood? Like, this is where kids ride their bikes.
That was probably the same cop that told Lucian and his grandma that they had to have a helmet on their bike.
He upgraded after that. He was like, I need to do better work. I can't just be a park police. I have to go to
There's criminals everywhere.
There's criminals everywhere. I have to go to the force. Have you ever been stopped by the police, Robert, as a child?
As a child? I don't think so.
Have you ever been pulled over?
Twice.
Nice. Very cool.
Yep.
On like your long drives? Or just random?
No. One was going to camp, and I got a warning for speeding.
Okay.
The other one was I just did not see a don't turn right on red, and the guy wasn't having it. I ended up, taking it to court, and it ended up just coming as impeding traffic, as like they're just sweeping under the rug thing. So it was like a $50 fine or something. Didn't go on my license or record or anything.
Yeah, I've never been stopped by the cops as an adult, but as a kid I got not pulled over, but I was walking with my grandma, and a cop just like slowed down as I was walking, and he just yelled, "How old are you?" And I was like, 14. And he was like, 18? And my grandma was like, no, 14. And he's like, okay. And he drove off. I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I dodged a bullet there or...
Was your grandma white?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
That's why I pulled you over.
Yeah. I assume so.
Do you know Josh?
No, I would know that last name for sure.
He's a Life Church Southfield. Or he was. He grew up with my dad. And he used to get that all the time. Like, he'd be driving with his mom, and his mom was white, his dad was black, and they'd get pulled over in Detroit, and they'd literally just be like, "Ma'am, are you in the car against your will?" And he'd be like, "Dude, it's my mom." Like,
so my number 5 was not that story, but and the reason I'm putting it at number 5 is because we technically had permission, but that's because we knew who to ask for permission. We knew if we would have asked 80% of the people, probably more than that, they would have said no. So I'm gonna kind of put this as we broke the rules. I've alluded to this in past podcasts. It's 2015 summer camp, and we had this rule from the previous summer. There's this one silly song they would always sing. Lucian, do you remember what silly song that was always sung your first year senior staffing?
Boogaloo.
It was Boogaloo, and we had this rule that you weren't allowed to sing Boogaloo while at the the pavilion, because we were eating out. The dining hall collapsed and they were building a new one, so we had all of our meals outside. Well, one guy thought he would be funny and started up Boogaloo and for dinner, and me and 2 other guys looked at each other and was like, no, we can't tolerate this. So we hatched this plan. We called it Operation No Boogaloo. And to start off, we took this, like, we ripped up a piece of paper, kind of burned it and wrote soon on it, and then just left it on his pillow. And then we woke up, I think it was like 2:30 a.m. And we put on dress pants, white shirt, like white button-down shirts. Then I had a Mike Myers mask. Someone had like a monkey mask. The other person had like this camo mask. And we ended up sneaking into his room, kidnapping him, tying him up, and then throwing him in the lake because of it.
that's the Boogaloo incident?
That is. And it was Caleb that did it.
That's the counselor from the green poop incident.
Yeah. Yeah. But he was, he was a senior staffer, but we made sure to ask Dave, because we knew, like, we're like,
Dave will let you do anything.
Yeah. We're just like, hey, as long as we don't wake up any campers, because it was juniors week. So if the young kids did see us breaking in, they probably would have been destroyed. We're like, as long as we don't wake up any campers, can we do this? And he's like, yeah, sure, go for it.
Dave has some of the best camp rule break stories in the history of that entire place.
Mm-hmm. And we didn't. We woke up his junior counselor, who ended up coming outside, and I just told him to go back to bed, and he's just like, whatever, sure, you can do it. As we're like tying him up and everything, and he's just like, yeah, whatever. I don't get paid for this.
I'm not gonna. Yeah, exactly. That's so good. It's what you get for singing Boogaloo, man.
And the best part about it. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was saying. I mean, and then Popsicle came, and it was just worse.
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta pick your battles sometimes.
Yeah. Luckily, that was the year after my last senior year. But I was gonna say the best part about that is, like, somehow, like, there was a little rumor that something had happened, but I guess Caleb kept a pretty tight lip. So when we showed everyone at like our final like banquet goodbye, everyone's just like, "What? No way you did that!" Because we had another guy filming the whole thing, who was along with us. So we still have the video, and it's like a nightlight. And then Joe's just like, "I'm so glad I did not hear about that when you were there, person like in charge." So
Dude,
that's when I knew I couldn't apply it.
Caleb knows the rules, man. Like that dude, he does not stitch. Because I used to, like, there's counselor appreciation night, And every year that I was a junior counselor, me and a couple other people, it was usually different every year, but like a couple of this, there were some repeat offenders. We would always just stay out, like we wouldn't actually go back, right? We'd stay out super late, and it was always like some of the best nights of the summer. Honestly, some of the best nights of my life. We're just like, you know, up till 2, 3 in the morning, just having great conversations, and like we were never up to anything shady. It was just like, man, we've been counseling all week. We're all kind of tired. We could use some real conversation. And we're just, hanging out. And so I told Caleb outright, I was like, look, man, it was my first year senior counseling. I was like, it's junior counselor appreciation night. I know sometimes people do this. I don't care. Like, if you want to stay out late, stay out late. I'm going to work you just as hard tomorrow as regardless. Like, we're doing the, camps for the campers. We're going 100%. But you want to stay out late, stay up late. I didn't know anything about it. And him and the people he hung out with got busted, and they got pulled out in front of Bob, and Bob read him the riot act. And that man kept my name out of his mouth the whole time. Like, he was like, yeah, Mike had no idea.
Wow.
Yeah.
Respect.
Caleb he's an OG, man. All right. I'm next.
Yes, sir.
Cool. My next alleged rule break may or may not, but definitely isn't the reason for certain rules being written down at camp now. You see, the men's retreat they have every year, there's different pricing that you get based on where you sleep. And the cheapest one being just camping in a tent. And so my dad was like, hey, you're in high school. I think I was a junior. He was like, if you want to go, I'll pay for you to go, but I'm only paying tent fare, right? Like, I'm not paying for you to have a cabin or your own room or anything. And I was like, all right, yeah, that's cool. He's like, so you gotta, we had tents. You have to figure out a tent. That meant you have to go into the garage and grab yourself a tent. Like, it wasn't anything crazy. Like, you got to figure that all out for yourself, though. I'm not taking care of you. You're going to the men's retreat. You got to be able to do it yourself, but I'll cover the cost. And I was like, all right. And so I went to Dylan. I was like, look, because I think he got the same deal. And I was like, look, man, I don't want to sleep in a freaking tent. Let's just sleep in the carpet ball tables under the dining hall. And he was like, yeah, sold. And so we did that. And like every night we'd get ready for bed, and we just set up our blankets and our pillows. And like, you kind of have to sleep like Dracula with your arms crossed, but it was genuinely some of the most comfortable sleep I've ever got. Like, it was fantastic. And then the next year we showed up, and in the paperwork they gave you at the beginning, there was a notice that was like, you may only sleep in approved sleeping areas. And I was like, crap, I didn't bring a tent because I just planned on sleeping in the carpet ball table again. And so what I ended up doing was, there's the 2 upstairs rooms in the PAC building, and they're connected by that little closet. And then at the time they were storing a bunch of stackable chairs. And so I just snuck in, and I pulled all the chairs like 1.5 feet forward, and every single row all the way forward, and just made like a little nest behind all the chairs. And that was where I slept for the whole week, because I was like, nobody's going to find me there. And the only person who busted me was it was the last night. And I guess Alex was getting ready to like preach for chapel, and he walked in there to like practice, and I was like changing my pants. I was like, oh, hey man, like, nothing to see here. But I don't think I went back, so no big deal.
So the first time we met was at Bear Lake, and it was either when you were sleeping in the
I want to say it was pool tables. Yeah, that was the same weekend of the infamous game of murder.
Yeah, I was like, damn, this guy's so damn cool. I hate this. Why is this guy so cool? He's just sleeping in different places. I gotta sleep in this tent with my dad, and he farts a lot. Darn it. My number 4 is not getting a dog license. So in the city that I live, you have to register your dog, and I'm not going to do that.
Allegedly.
I find no reason for it. Allegedly. Again, yes. Allegedly, I'm not going to do that. That's not going to happen. I'm not giving my city $10. Just not going to do it. My dog's illegal. She's okay with it. She doesn't know how to speak English, so she can't really protect herself or say anything. So my stories get a lot thicker as they go on.
It's okay. Mine do too. Dude, I feel you on that though. There's so many things that you have to be licensed for or have a license for that I'm just like, this is just the stupidest thing. Cosmetology license, that one's never made sense to me. Like, you can't cut hair for money. without a license. That's always been one where I'm like, dude, you should be able to cut hair for money in your garage and nobody should care.
Yeah.
And if you're licensed, you should be able to charge more than the guy cutting hair in his garage. Also, license plate fees. And like, you have to get your tags renewed every year. That one drives me up a wall. That's
It
just
is
like,
ridiculous.
you
Yeah.
needed to have a car, so we're going to charge you because we can.
Well,
Yeah,
you know, that's
absolutely
what the Beatles sang about. You know, you drive, we're going to tax the street. If you walk, you're going to tax your feet. They're really onto something. Income tax is theft. That's what I'm saying.
I
Yeah,
am inclined to agree. I don't like anybody touching my money.
yeah, that's fair. I like my main road that I live next to got repaved, and I was like, oh, that's really awesome. But then they didn't put the lines in, and so it was just a black street, and it's really kind of hard to see when it's raining and dark. And I was like, what is my taxes going to? What's going on here? Like, don't you have enough of my money to just do this? This is ridiculous.
Not in
You'd
Michigan.
think.
At least they
Oh.
fixed the potholes. You know, there used to be potholes. Maybe in a decade they'll get to putting the lines on there.
And the lines down. Yeah, I mean, I'm appreciative, but I'm not paying $10 for my dog. She's pretty expensive already.
Isn't it like every year too, or every other year?
I did a minimal amount of research, and I just found that it was $10. And I just
He saw
stopped
$10. It was like, I'm out.
If it's every year, every other year, yeah, I'm not doing it. If it's once, I'm not doing it. That's that $10 can go into so many different things. So
Yeah, my mom would always.
That's two hot and readies right there, man.
Well, now it's like a freaking
yeah,
1.5.
yeah, now it's one in tax. Okay.
My mom would always. She was a law-abiding citizen and always registered our dogs. So
That's awesome.
I think it was a year
I'm
or two.
really proud.
But yeah, it's
Proud of
stupid.
her.
So dumb.
Yeah, I'm not doing it.
They
I
just
take
want-
really good care of my dog. I do her nails. We go to the vet all the time. She gets combed. We take baths. I take good care of my dog. I'm just not. She is going to stay illegal. That's all.
I like the blending of political takes. Like, you're okay with having an illegal in your house, but absolutely no taxes. Like, it's a good middle ground.
Yeah, I'm learning about myself as we do this podcast.
We didn't.
We're
know,
gonna make a centrist out of you. Just watch.
Yeah,
We didn't know this was gonna be a political episode, but here we are.
yeah. And here we are.
My number 4 was definitely an abuse of the system. So I used to work at one of the probably the most popular movie chain in the nation, and they had a really lax their policy was, as long as the theater isn't sold out, you can bring yourself and 2 of your friends in to come see a movie for free, which I guess a lot of movie chains, like, they limit their employees to how many free movies they can see. But one thing no one there cared about was they didn't stop it at 2. There were times I brought 6 friends in, and that we would just go see whatever movie was like out that day, and you weren't supposed to get free popcorn, but like if you were cool with the people working in the back bar, is what they called that area, they would just give you free boxes of popcorn and everything, and I'd do the same, allegedly. So it was it was fun, but it was a rule break because they were losing probably nine tickets worth of value there.
Yeah, they were
And-
losing like 7 cents on the movie and like $500 on the popcorn.
Yeah, the popcorn is really because that's where movie theaters make their money, is the concessions, which is why they're so astronomically insane. The popcorn is, we did the math one time, the popcorn is it's like 300% inflation. And that's
like $12 a kernel.
yeah, and that's for a large. Like if you get the small, it's even worse. Quote unquote sneaking friends into movies is my number 4.
Have you ever snuck into a like full on just snuck into a movie?
No, I did. Me and my friends, before we were, I think, 17, we did buy tickets to go sing Lincoln, and then we went to Texas Chainsaw 3D, which was a
Nice.
stupid movie.
Yeah, well, there were a couple hints in the title, but
Yeah.
I've only ever snuck into one movie, and we didn't even stay for the whole movie. It was me and my wife's brother, shout out Seth, and we were hanging out. We were having a great night. We went out to I think we went to Chili's for dinner, and then we went to Zap Zone for no reason, And then we were like, you want to go sneak into a movie? And I was like, I don't really want to see any of the movies. He's like, I just want to see if we can do it. And I was like, oh, okay, then yeah, sure. And so we just snuck into the movie, waited till the credits were done. And then once the movie started, we just got up and left because we were just like, I just wanted to see if I could pull it off. I didn't actually want to see The Shack.
You had a straight up date with your brother-in-law, and that's the cute. You just like that's the cutest thing ever.
But yeah, as
That's a good guy.
a previous movie theater employee, people there don't care. I'm just like, you would see people like trying to finish off McDonald's like in the corner before they walk in. I'm like, dude, I'm not paid enough to care. Go ahead. Like, I'm not going to stop you. I'm not going to make a confrontation for your
Jacob
$3 of McDonald's you have in there.
Right. Jacob and I used to try and sneak like full 12 packs of pop into the movie theater. Like we just see how many different places we could hide a can. And like they definitely were just like these idiots and just like let us go. They were just like, well, whatever. I think we fit 5 alone. Like we fit 5 Mountain Dews on the way to the wonderful. It was the Steve Carell magician movie, Burt Wonderlick or something. But we had like 1 in each of my hoodie pockets and then like 3 in the hood, just like hanging down, like pulling my my back out of whack.
I think my wife or someone else I know has snuck in a full hot and ready, like using
That is, I've
purse.
heard that story from her. Yeah.
And her secret is for all the ladies out there, you keep feminine products on the top. So if they open up the bag, they would see all those. And, you know, most people don't want to, you know, go shuffling through feminine products. Yeah.
That's smart. That's smart. We were in the same group going to see A Quiet Place. And we snuck in a couple cans of Coke and then realized this is not a good place to have to open an aluminum can because you could hear a pin drop in that movie theater. But I'd already seen it once, so I was like, give it to me. And I just sat there, I had both of them in my hands ready to go. And I knew I knew when the next big loud moment was, and it was like, boom, click. And then I just like handed her the Coke because it was the only way you could do it without it being super conspicuous.
Yeah, one time me and my wife used to go to matinees all the time, and we got coffee and donuts that we were going to sneak into the movie theater.
Nice.
But the coffee, the place that we went to, they didn't have any more coffee lids, and so we snuck in 2 uncovered hot coffees and a whole box of of 6 donuts, and we got the one person who cared and wanted to look. And one person that cared and wanted to look in my wife's bag. The lady looked, saw that there were donuts, didn't say anything, but at the same time, my wife was so freaked out that she was pouring coffee all over herself. And so when we got into the movie theater, her whole chest was like completely full of coffee. And she had to sit there and watch some type of Marvel movie the whole time.
That's even worse than burning your chest with coffee.
I know. That was hilarious.
Number 3s?
Number 3.
Man, it feels like we're making crazy fast time now that we're back down to 3 people. All right. My number 3 is practice room infiltration. You see, when I was in high school, I really wanted to be a rock star. And my uncle, who is, but at the time he was a touring musician, was like, hey, take choir. It's like free singing lessons. And the thing about that is that it's not. It's nothing like that at all. And I still haven't gotten over it. But I took 1 year at choir, and I still learned a ton of stuff. Like we were learning music theory. There was some interesting stuff. And my choir teacher was like, hey, you should sign up senior year for like audition choir. I think it was called Glenn Singers. And I was like, yeah, man, I'm good. I'm not doing this again. And like, he really wanted me to audition. I wouldn't do it. And so it was the day of our finals, and I was doing my finals. Like, why the heck is this taking so much longer than everybody's final? And it turns out he just snuck my audition onto the end of my final exam. And so my senior year, I showed up, and he like I don't know how he did it, but Glenn Singers was on my schedule. And I was just like, you've got to be kidding me. But I was lazy and didn't like, I literally never dropped a class. So I had no clue how to do it. And I was like, whatever, man, this is a blow off class anyway. It doesn't matter. Easy A. And it wasn't a blow off class because audition choir he took seriously. And he kind of knew like the kids taking regular choir idiots and they're not, like, he can't wrangle them. And so I was like, how the heck am I going to blow this class off? And I realized that the practice room in the back, the choir room, was like never locked. And so I started sneaking in. And then a couple of my friends started noticing it. So they'd sneak in. And then he'd start to notice that 5 or 6 of his choir kids were just gone. And he finally figured out where we were hanging out. So he started locking the choir room. But he didn't lock the broom closet next to the practice room. And I discovered you could just go into the broom closet, climb up on top of this like this shelving unit, lift the ceiling tile out of the way, go into the ceiling, replace the ceiling tile, allegedly, lift up a different ceiling tile on the other side of the wall, and drop down into the practice room. At which point you return the other ceiling tile and you let your 4 friends back into the practice room. And that man was pulling what little hair he had left out of his head for the entirety of my senior year, trying to figure out how we were getting into the practice room. And it was the best. Like, he never figured it out. And this is the first time he's going to have a chance to learn my secret. Not that it's a real secret, because that was all made up.
Yeah, I'm glad I never did choir. The choir teacher at our school, I think, had a rule like if you took choir, everyone would have to do a solo for like a performance. So there was kids that just could not sing, and I felt so bad for them that they were up there and had like a solo spot, and like, oh, I'm sorry, dude. Probably took it thinking it'd be easy. Now you have to sing in front of everyone. Yeah, it was rough.
Yeah, I managed to keep it a secret that I was in choir my entire junior year, or a good chunk of my junior year. And then one of my friends was dating somebody in choir, and she dragged him to one of our choir concerts. And then from that point on, all of my friends started showing up to the choir concerts so they could make fun of me after. Which, to be fair, that's my love language. So like, power to them. That was a good burn. But like, I was so upset. I was like, man, everybody knows I'm in choir now. I was in high school, so it really mattered to me that people thought I was manly.
You should have just told them that you freaking scaled the walls to get their friends in. You know, that would.
Well, I hadn't done that yet. That was senior year. I started pulling that stuff. I did the second half of my junior year. I don't know how I talked my way through this one. I convinced the choir teacher to let me accompany him on guitar instead of singing. And so I would just, we had a spare guitar that I would just leave in the choir room. And I basically had to learn 4 songs, 6 songs. I don't know. I had to learn a couple songs. They were all unbelievably basic. And I just got to sit there and play acoustic guitar for the entirety of the day. Well, the hour, but not a bad solution to not wanting to sing.
Yeah, we didn't have choir in at my high school. So
No. Do you have band or
no, we
drama?
we had band for a little bit, and then some cuts had to happen, and that's one of the first things that got cut. And so we didn't even have a cheerleading team for my last 2 years. All right, my number 3. So I'm listing actual crimes, and it seems like you guys are listing like stories.
I'm listing times I broke the rules. Don't worry, I have at least 2 crimes in my number 1.
Oh, okay. For my number 3, I got destruction of property. Nothing crazy. So one time, I think it was my freshman year of college, and I was in. Robert, you've been to our dorms. It's not much.
No.
When you explain our dorms, it's just one common room.
Yeah.
It's really simple. It's really simple.
It gives me like, looking back from what I remember, it's kind of like how I feel like a prison layout would be. Like there's a common room in the middle, and then the cells kind of all around.
Yeah, I wish you would have maybe shared that with. I wish you would have came with me when I visited the place. Yeah, so we were just in the common room, and I was just trying to make friends. And a guy that I was already kind of friends with went to go get McDonald's. He came back, and I decided to open the door with my feet instead of my hands, and I missed. and I hit the glass and I shattered the whole door right in contact. It shattered everywhere.
And you're like, come
and
on
so-
in, man.
And so we all freaked out. I have this defense mechanism when I feel like I'm going to get in trouble. I start taking clothes off. I don't know what that's about.
They'll be too embarrassed, for punishment.
Well, just like you can't blame the naked guy. He's naked.
Do you remember?
Actually, I feel like
used to do a special naked episode.
No.
Who?
That was a thing. Cops would do an episode every now and then where every single crime was somebody who was naked for the whole thing. And I think that was the concept. Was they were like, they're not going to tackle me if I'm naked.
Yeah, I would think you're more suspicious if you're naked. Be like, what's that guy on? There's a naked guy in a broken window. I'm putting
at a bare minimum. You're adding indecent exposure to your rap sheet.
I didn't stay I didn't stay there with the.
So you go streaking too?
So no, I ran up to my room and I started stripping my clothes off in front of my roommate.
Who had to be so confused.
He was so confused because thinking about what he was experiencing, he probably heard this loud boom, a really big guy huffing up the stairs, busting through the door and start taking off his clothes. So, yeah. So, a week goes by and nothing happens. So I'm like, I'm in the clear. There's no cameras inside the dorm rooms. So there's no way that I could get caught. And then somebody snitched on me.
Was it Tyler?
Snitches. Yes. F you, Tyler.
No, I don't know. I think it was Miguel, if I had to guess. But shout out to Miguel. I doubt he'll hear this. He's a pastor now, so. But pastors can snitch, right? Pastors snitch to God all the time.
I know pastors can get you in trouble.
Yeah, pastor can get you in trouble.
They'll shoot you sometimes.
They shoot you right in the back.
Right in the back. Spoil the rod, save the child, or something like that.
It's Jesus' job to forgive you, not mine.
That sounds like something he'd say. He'd be kidding, but still sounds like something he'd say.
Yeah. So I got interrogated by this rent-a-cop, not the same guy who got me in trouble with the helmet, but same energy. He was pretending. He sat me down. He didn't put the light in my face, but it felt like he did, that kind of vibe to it. And he was just asking me hard questions. And I was just fessing up to all of it. It's just yeah. Yeah, he did not like me very much.
Did you break the door?
It was
did you hide? Why are you taking off your pants right now?
I can't help it. I'm stressed. Yeah, so that's my number 3.
All right, my number 3 is very lame, but it's something I've been doing since I was as long as I can remember, and it wasn't breaking any laws or rule. The only rule it was breaking was rules stated by my mom, and that is staying up past my bedtime. I would classic. When I had the Game Boy Advance, I would have the light on, try to shield it, and was playing Pokemon with it right up close to my face, and it got so much better once the SP came around with the backlight. Except if you're making noise and something walks in, you can just close it's a lot easier to close put the Game Boy into the sheets and try to hide the lamp and turn it off quickly. And so it started off with Game Boy games. Then once I started sleeping in the basement, I would go to bed and then just be playing Xbox all night and all that. My mom would be like, "Why do you look so tired?" I'm like, "Oh, I couldn't sleep." I just always use that. And then I end up developing insomnia. They're not linked, but I'm just man. I used to.
Irony's a bitch.
Yeah, I used to be man, I wish I could stay up all night, and now I'm just I wish I didn't have to stay up all night.
Dude, I had an SP,
Karma.
And my mom caught me. I'd close it, put it under the pillow. She caught the glow from the closed SP in at noon. It was broad daylight, and she was like, "What's that light coming from under your pillow?" I was like, "You gotta be kidding me." And I managed to weave a tale about hanging onto it for a buddy who wasn't he wasn't supposed to. I was like, he wasn't supposed to be playing, and he couldn't save. I don't, maybe he was playing on my Game Boy, and like I didn't want to let him take it home, but I told him I'd keep it running for him. I can't believe she bought it. I don't know if she was just letting me off easy or if she just like didn't know enough about video games that she fell for it, but I'm still just irritated. I was like, how did you spot that?
Yeah, the only time I was caught was I had at a point I had 2 Game Boy Advances, so I was trading between Pokemon, and it's kind of hard to hide two Game Boy
Yeah.
Advances on a link cable. So
That's
the
fair.
only time I got caught.
I used to so there used to be like a light that would shine underneath my door, and I used to put paper, not towel paper, not paper towels. I used to put like shirts and stuff, and I used to
Mhm.
stuff my shirts in front of the door to make sure I didn't get caught.
That's smart.
Yeah.
That's smart. We used to have this radio slash maybe there was a I don't know. It was several things, but it also had like a 4-inch screen, little TV, like antenna TV built into it. It was this multi-purpose thing. And I would sneak that out of the attic because for some reason my parents kept it in the attic right next to my bedroom. And I would like sneak it out and watch TV till like late into the night. I was in middle school and I was like, what are these shows that are on late? And they were all boring. Like Sex and the City, not that interesting.
You gotta go to Adult Swim. You know, that's where all the good stuff was.
Yeah, there was no cable on the 4-inch antenna box.
That's fair.
Only Sex and the City.
It was black and white too. Like it was.
Oh, one of those ones. I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Um,
like yeah, there was nothing going on that was. It was like late night TV or like late night talk show. This sucks. That was something I gave up with that. Like I didn't even get caught. I was like, this is dumb. I'm not doing this anymore.
I found out I had like not an iPad, but some sort of thing that played radio. And I found out that they did like heavy metal late at night.
Yeah, on
I thought I was just
89X.
Yeah, I was like, this is the coolest thing. I didn't even like heavy metal, but just the idea of listening to like something that I shouldn't have been listening to late at night. I was just like, I'm into heavy metal now.
Yeah, that was definitely an honorable mention. Listening to music my mom would not approve of. Not even lyrically, but you
Yeah.
know, she would just. I know I'd be judged hardcore for the heavy metal, you know, the screamo and everything.
That's fair. Your mom and my grandma are friends, and my grandma still to this day refers to screamo music as emo music, and I'm like, that's a completely different genre, but I have no interest in trying to explain this to her.
It's like me trying to explain that like screamo isn't like a real genre, really. Like there's so many. It's like just lumping in
it's
metalcore,
like an umbrella term
post-hardcore,
for-
and yeah, it's like all this. And I'm like, it's just not worth it anymore, especially because the scene died like a decade ago.
All right, my number 2 is allegedly public urination. I think I've talked about this in the podcast.
Nice.
I think we talked about this in the podcast before. I'm pretty sure I did.
I
But
think
yeah.
it might have been trimmed because I feel like I remember talking about this, but I don't remember hearing it.
Okay, which is fair. It's the second time you bringing it up. So, yeah, as a high schooler, I did not know anything about public. Oh my gosh, what do you call it? Public exposure,
Indecency?
indecency. I had no idea anything about a sex offenders list. None of this was like to my knowledge, and so I used to just be outside a lot, and I loved it. I loved crisp air.
The breeze between your knees.
I loved the breeze between the knees. I loved making yellow snow. That was like a pastime favorite I used to love to do.
Did you write your name in the snow?
You know, I never got far enough, but I always had a pretty good L for sure. So yeah, I'm a big fan, right? And then so one time we went to it was a different camp than the camp we usually talk about. But yeah, I was like a dog. Once I found out that it was mostly woods, I was just peeing on trees like left and right. I would like the bathroom was a little bit farther away, so I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm not walking that far. As a 16-year-old, I'm just gonna pee on this tree. And my youth leader dropped some pretty thick knowledge on me. He was like, "Hey, you can go to jail for this." I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, you can be a sex offender." And I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah. If somebody sees you pee, if somebody sees your ding dong, that they don't like, they find that not good, you could go to jail. And so yeah, so now I am really careful about when I pee outside. I've been hiking a couple times with my wife, and she's been my lookout. Uh, and she's done a terrible job sometimes, and I've peed on myself because of that. She like
You
just
start taking
wasn't.
off
She was just like
clothes when you got nervous.
she was.
This is a counterproductive solution this time.
Yeah, I told her to be my lookout, and she immediately, I think, got on her phone, and just a whole ass family came strolling down as I'm trying to quickly pee, and I had to pretend to look at a tree, and I was like covered in piss. Yeah, yep, that's my number 2. Public urination. Don't recommend it.
I mean,
That's
I recommend it in the right context.
Yeah. I mean, like if you have a job where you have to pee outside.
save it for the top 5 Kinks podcast, Rob.
Yeah, my dad used to, because we used to do snow super late at night at like 4 in the morning, and so nothing was open, and my dad would often poop outside, and he
Yeah.
would have like a roll of toilet paper.
Whoa,
Yeah. And he was pretty good at it.
Yeah. Make sure you kick your
that's
legs out
hardcore.
from behind the tree, or like kick your legs out from the tree.
Yeah, he never pooped on himself. I accidentally whipped dog poop in his face.
What?
That was bad. That was not good.
Yeah.
The only time I ever pooped outside was we went up north and like we rented a house. See the top 5 summer traditions podcast for more. And there was one year where we had septic backup, and so we like if you flushed any of the toilets, it started backing up through the downstairs bathtub.
Ugh.
And so we called the homeowner that we were renting from, and we were like, hey, and they're like, yeah, we're gonna take care of it, like, but it's gonna take us till the morning. And we had chili for dinner that night, and so everybody was like trying to come up with the solution, and I was like, man, screw this, and engaged in what I referred to for the week as aqua dump, which was just swim out, do your thing, shimmy a little bit, swim in.
Are you the one that told Julian about that? Because that's where I heard it from. Was Julian.
Yeah.
He's like, I gotta try the aqua dump.
Yeah,
No, totally. He might have said it, and that might have been, I might have just retained the name and thought I came up with it myself. This was well after the last time I saw Julian.
Okay.
I do not. I'm just going to say this now. I do not recommend aqua dumping if anybody's like, I want to try that.
Oh no,
It's
not your first choice, but
It's
like
not good.
people were
Yeah.
like buying kitty litter and filling up the litter box we found in the basement. I was like, I'm not doing this. Like, I'm sorry, that's worse.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's
Yeah.
like a
It's just-
giant built-in bidet, you know?
Yeah, I don't know anyone that's pooped in a litter box, but one of my friends, going back to the staying up
you
late,
do.
he's like, well, okay, I didn't know that I knew someone, but he was up late playing Morrowind. He didn't want his parents to know, like, and make a lot of sound, so he just like peed in the kitty litter box and everything, so he didn't have to go
Oh, I got
upstairs.
that.
Did he
Never
have
did
to
a litter
change?
box before.
Did you change it?
I didn't ask. He just told us. We're like, good job, man.
I'm
we
a
got-
true gamer.
Yeah.
Just like, there's something wrong with our cat. These poops are too big for this cat. So yeah, that is my number 3. No, my number 2.
Or 2.
I think we skipped you, Mike.
We did. I was just gonna roll with it whenever we remembered. My number 2 is the great soap sculpture fraud of 2012.
Love the story.
I took humanities because my senior year, because I liked the teacher. She was my 11th grade English teacher, and I didn't care about humanities one bit, but I really enjoyed her class, and so I was like, I'll take this as my whole thing senior year was take the easiest classes possible. I'm done trying. Like, I just want to get good grades for minimal effort and or have cool teachers. Like, I would take slightly harder classes if the teacher was cool. Yeah, so we had this thing where when we were studying sculptures, where she would pass out, or she would make everybody bring in a soap sculpture, and then she'd put them out on the blackboard, little like the lip that comes off of it, and she would have all her other classes vote on who did the best soap sculpture, and that person would get extra credit. And so I made my first soap sculpture, and I fell in love with it. Like, I got like a huge box of just like Irish Spring or whatever the cheapest soap I could find was. And I was just carving soap all over the place. Like I couldn't stop. I just thought it was the most fun thing to do. And so I had like 4 or 5 of them on me. And one day someone was like, hey man, can I give you $3 for one of those? And I was like, okay, I know what you're trying to pull. So if you win the extra credit, you owe me an extra $2. And word spread like wildfire. And pretty soon I was like, I'd finish the carving and I'd just sell it off. And so like half the class ended up turning in my soap sculptures. And then I was like, there's no way I win I don't win. Cause by the end I was really freaking good at it. And then I didn't win. Or not like I didn't win, but none of my sculptures won. And I was livid because the one that won wasn't bad. It was a turtle. And like the hexagon pattern on the shell was pretty solid, but like I had some detailed tropical fish going on. Like at least 3 of my my sculptures were way better. And she keeps me after class and she was like, hey, I gotta ask you a question. I was like, yeah, what's up? And she goes, did you perhaps sell a bunch of soap sculptures to people? Now, as a generalization, the type of student who would buy their homework from somebody may or may not, but definitely is usually a degenerate. And several of said degenerates.
I resent that.
You resemble that.
That.
Several of said degenerates were still in the classroom with me, and I wasn't about to just sell them out right before having to walk into the hallway with them. Like I knew what some of those kids' suspension records were for, and I was not about being the next one. And I was like, I swear to you, I said, no, definitely not. Well, shaking my head, yes, up and down. And she was like, well, I know you did, and you've lost my trust now. Get out. And I was like, what? Okay. And I was like, all right, I don't know how she figured it out. I don't know who snitched on me, but whatever. I get home. My mom's like, so how'd class go? And I was like, I don't know what made me do it, but I was like, I got busted selling a bunch of soap sculptures. And she gets this look in her face and she's like, yeah. I was like, what did you do? Turns out she went to parent teacher conference the night before and walked in and was like, oh, hey, that's Michael's soap sculpture. And she was like, yeah, it's really good. And she goes, yeah. And that one's his. And that one's his. And that one's his. And that one's. And my mom, and she was just like, oh, really? Yeah. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And she didn't say a word. And she just unwittingly scolded me down the river. And yeah, I got totally busted. And then like a month later, I was in weight training and the weight training coach was her husband. And he starts telling the story. He was like, yeah, my wife had some total idiot in her class who sold a bunch of soap sculptures. And I was like, yeah, right here. And he was like, my bad.
Degenerate.
Yeah, exactly.
So when are we making the Top Podcast limited edition run soap sculptures?
You know, I don't know if I still got it, but I'd be down to try. That'd be kind of fun. I enjoyed it immensely. I will say the shine kind of fell off the hobby after I got totally destroyed and lost credit for it.
I can see you dressing up as the guy from Toy Story 2.
Al from Al. Oh, the toy repair guy?
Yeah.
Multi-level like zoom lens.
Yeah.
The only time there's one class where I made a trade for homework. So I didn't buy it, but it was like trading lunch food for homework. And it was funny is my buddy Drew, it was in our Bible class, and he would have us write these like 6-page long case studies. I'm like, I'm not doing that. So
high school?
In high school, which you can see why I didn't want to do that. And they're usually boring as all get out. And so I would trade my buddy Drew for this. And it was funny. We turned in the same exact paper. I would, change the font up and, make the title a little different and all that, but nothing crazy.
Change the font.
Of like, yeah. And then like, it was just a little different. The meat and, the body of the paragraph, all the same. But I would always get better grades than him. And he would just be so mad at me because it's like the same exact paper, but I would get the better grades.
That's amazing. He must have just liked your font more.
Well, I think there was some history. That Bible teacher did used to date my aunt. So, thanks, Aunt Dawn.
Whoa, it's awesome.
Nothing wrong with a little healthy nepotism.
Yeah. Well, and this was
say nothing wrong with Aunt Dawn.
This was a teacher that didn't believe in putting a lot of falses on his test. So if there was 50 true and false questions, it'd be 2 or 3 false questions. So you just go A, and you get like almost 90% right. And then if there was an all the above question, it was always all the above for his multiple choice.
Dude, that'd be so nice.
The first time I heard that soap story, I was like, man, your mom really ratted you out. And then now as I'm older, I'm just like, wow, your mom really cared about your work.
Right,
And
right. She was so proud of me.
Your art.
And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
just-
She was, like, what a good mom. That's awesome.
She showed up to a student teacher or a parent teacher conference. That's more than most parents do. And
than
then
most parents,
just pulled the rug out from under me.
It's like, yeah, I don't know if I heard this in high school or in college, but high school, college me was like, man, she really ratted you out.
I wasn't even mad at the time. I was like, all right. I was in high school and I was still like, nah, this is going to be a good story. I can let this one slide.
So my number 2 is off another high school story. You know, that was during my rowdy phase. I think it was freshman year. I had second hour PE. And this is with Dylan, who you hear in a lot of Mike's stories. He was in there. And some other what do we say, delinquents. And we thought it'd be this great idea to start this fight club. And the rule was it'd be 1v1 and there'd be a ref. And you would take off your shirts and start there'd be the shoe, and you'd start like just jumping around the shoe in the middle and just backhanding into each other's chests. But then whenever the ref took out the shoe, it was just full force, whatever. So I was going against this one kid, and he like jumped off the bench in there and like roundhouse kicked me in the face, and it was just it was all in good fun.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, it was crazy. And we had this rule that if you didn't want to, fight your matchup, then everyone after class would just line up, you take your shirt off, and they get the backhand smack you in the chest. That was the rule.
Mm.
And it came down to this it was 2 heavyweights, so kind of the bigger guys in the group. Of course, we put them against each other. And freaking Tyler, man, he's like I'm not going to do it. And he's like, I'm not fighting him. And also, this is in between periods, so we really only had 5 minutes to get this done. So it was a quick fight, quick bout and everything. And he's like, I'm not going to do it. And so during class, we're like warming up, and Dylan and one other guy keep on like running behind and be like, oh, you're going to get slaps after this. Like, we're coming for you and all that. He ends up asking the PE teacher to leave, and he goes and rats us out to the principal and the superintendent. And we find this out, and we're just like, man,
Fuck you, Tyler.
Yeah, and this is the guy that the next year sold my friend Jake out for the lighter, because it was just me. They're trying to figure out who set off the alarm, and then he's just like, oh well, anyways, Jake has a lighter. This guy was just a rat. So we end up coming in, and like we're all like super worried that we're all gonna get suspended. We have like a prayer circle. We're like, God, we're sorry. Just please don't suspend us. And it didn't end up going anywhere. I think we got a warning too, but that was locker room. We called it LR Underground for Locker Room Underground. And I think that inspired Lucas, Dylan's younger brother. I think that kind of inspired him, and his grade also had a fight club. But yeah, it was a fun time. Would recommend it.
So funny. Yeah, because I've heard more stories about Lucas's fight club, but I knew that it was inspired by your guys's ring. I am so curious what your number 1 is now, because I assumed that fight club was going to be number 1.
It's going to be a letdown compared to that, but it's just something that's like, I feel like defines me.
I get that. So my number 1 story, allegedly, took place when I think I was probably 19 or 20, and I was living out in Kalamazoo, and I was working at the no longer there Beatty's Mongolian Barbecue of Portage. I want to say, no, it wasn't a Christmas party. Somebody was just having a house party after work. And maybe, I don't know, like a week or 2 prior, I had just broken up with my girlfriend, who at the time was the longest relationship I've ever been in. I had no family on that side of the state. I was essentially alone, and I didn't have a single healthy coping mechanism within 100 miles. And I ended up asking out a different girl who I thought was cute, and she gave me the like, oh, I'm seeing somebody. And I was like, I know she's not seeing somebody. Like that's just like I'll let you down easy kind of thing. And so I wasn't in the best emotional spot. And so I was like, all right, I'm gonna go to this party, but I'm 20, right? So I gave my buddy some money. I was like, hey, pick me up some vodka. And so he brings me allegedly a 5th of 5 o'clock, which if you know anything about vodka is just about as bottom shelf as it can get. But as it turns out, if you mix enough juice into it, it doesn't really matter. So I get to this party, and I was like, hey, can I get a glass? And they hand me just the biggest plastic cup you've ever seen. That's not true. If you've seen Big Gulp, you've seen bigger, but like it was a beast for a non-mugged or like a non-handle cup. And I ended up pouring like a third of this fifth of 5 o'clock in here and just topping the rest off with cranberry juice till it tasted good. And I was like, hey, this is a good time. And, so the party starts going and I'm having fun. And I finished my fifth of 5 o'clock and I'm like, man, maybe life is okay. And who walks in the door but the girl that I just recently asked out and who turned me down? And not having a healthy coping mechanism within 100 miles, I go back to the bar and I pour another third of my fifth of 5 o'clock in and I top it off with cranberry juice. I put that whole thing down and all of a sudden this girl being there doesn't bother me anymore. And I'm having a great time again. And this girl comes up to me and she's like, hey, you want to smoke a bowl? Are you guys familiar with Pigpen from the Charlie Brown comics?
Yeah.
/ the show? Yeah, like the guy who moves and whenever he moves, dust comes off him.
Yeah.
I swear to you, this girl was such a hippie that she was the live action version of that concept. Like
the one that you asked out?
No. The girl who was like, hey, you want to go smoke a bowl? And I'm 2/3 of a fifth of 5 o'clock in at this point, and I got no healthy coping mechanisms within 100 miles. And I was like, yeah, okay, you're hot in like an earthy sort of way. And I decided, I was like, hey, you know what? I've never been high in my life. I'm not really into this, but why not? We'll give it a shot because you make great decisions when you're emotionally messed up and completely trashed. And so we go down and we pass the bowl around a few times. I have no idea what I'm doing, allegedly, but I was like,
you didn't inhale,
no.
right? That's
yeah. I'm sure I tried or would have if this was a true story. We got back upstairs and I had so many buddies who had been trying to get me to smoke. And they were like, did you just? And I was like, yeah. And it like really locked in the drunk. I think I might like this. And so we're like, the party kind of dies down. It's just like a few coworkers were all hanging out. And I can barely keep my eyes open at this point. But every time my eyes closed, anyone who's experienced this will understand. I start getting the spins. Just world is spinning so fast. And I can't ride on a merry-go-round. Like if when it comes to spinning, my stomach is so weak. I'm just like barely keeping it together. I'm trying to keep my eyes open to keep my stomach under control, but I'm so tired that I can't keep my eyes open. And my friends finally start to pick up on what's going on. And they're like, hey man, if you need to go puke, like bathroom's right over there. And I was like, yeah. And like, I stand up and I feel it coming. I start running for the bathroom. I feel it coming up. I put both hands clamped down over my mouth. A little bit shoots out my nose, hits my buddy on the foot, which still makes me laugh because he ended up being a jerk. So he had it coming. Get to the toilet, that's the last thing I remember. And then I wake up the next morning and I'm like, man, this is easily the most comfortable blanket I've ever been in my life. And this has got to just be the most perfect pillow of all time. And my eyes are still closed. And I'm like, whose bed am I in? I don't remember anything after last night. Like what happened? And I steel myself and I open my eyes and I am staring down the toilet and somebody just put a pillow under my head, tossed a blanket on top of me and just left me there overnight. And so that is the first time I ever got high. And I can thoroughly recommend not doing it in that fashion.
Yeah. Doesn't sound like a good time.
No, it was no good.
What did you learn from the experience?
Don't drink a fifth. And
what did I learn from that experience? Nothing. What did I learn from repeated repetitions, allegedly, of the same essential experience? Lay off that stuff. It doesn't help.
Yeah. I was trying to fish the whole idea that you can't drink your feelings away.
You cannot.
Yeah.
But you can try for about a year.
Yeah, you can definitely try. If anybody that's listening that is like going through some stuff, alcohol and any other type of drug, it's not gonna help.
Nope.
It's only gonna make it worse.
Yeah, it'll keep it at bay for a little while, but eventually you're gonna wake up and have to deal with it, and then it's just gonna be worse. Allegedly.
Yeah. All right. So my number one is stealing. I like to steal. Allegedly I enjoy stealing. I've enjoyed stealing for quite some time. It started with the Detroit Zoo. I stole the first thing I remember stealing. I was a lion. Yeah.
It's like, how? Lucian, where'd you get that lion cub?
I stole the lion. I stole, those like really like cheap plastic toys that like are like the size of like a penny
Hmm.
or something like that, like those 10-cent toys.
Yeah.
I stole one of those, and I just got hyped off of it. I just loved doing it. I got that little like rush, and so yeah. So I in my whole life I've never stolen anything important. To my like discretion, I guess. I never stole any money from anybody. I never stole from anything that anybody really cared about. The most I've ever stolen, and I also don't steal now. So allegedly. So
no, actually, he'd like to put on record that. Oh.
I mean, like it's funny because I just been to Mike's house and it'd been funny if I like.
I was wondering where that $40 went.
But yeah, so I didn't really do it. I did a little bit in high school. I would steal like pen. I would love to like just take something off my teacher's desk that my teacher wouldn't care about, like a clip or like a pen. I don't know why, man. It just like I always called myself like the Robin Hood of stealing, but like I wasn't giving it to the poor, so I don't know. I'm not sure how that all worked.
You're giving it to yourself.
Well,
I mean,
and
you
know
weren't
how-
having an income.
Yeah.
That's
Well, and
fair.
plus, no, those teachers and their crazy high salaries are super rich.
Steal from the
Yeah.
poor and give to the me.
Yeah, I just like if the worst solution like that I can imagine, like the wife dies, dog gets cancer, I lose a pinky, I would like break into people's houses and like steal their light bulbs. Like that would just give me such a rush. I would
I'm the
just,
9-fingered light bulb bandit.
yeah,
Like
I just-
nothing crazy, just the light bulbs.
just the light bulbs, nothing crazy. Like yeah.
I mean, some of those smart bulbs are not cheap, man.
Oh, that's true.
That's true. That's a good point. If I found it was a smart bulb, I would just replace it with a cheaper.
Right.
non
You got a bunch of them to spare. You robbed a bunch of
Yeah.
low-income houses.
Yeah.
Noted. If
Yeah,
Lucian
yeah.
ever comes visiting me here, switch out the smart bulbs.
Yeah, man. It'd be hilarious to me to be like, somebody's like, Alexa, turn on light, and it just didn't work. Or okay, Google, turn
Dude,
on
I'll tell you what. When you say "Okay, Google" and Google doesn't listen,
It's infuriating.
my phone just listened.
my phone also.
So did Google. Google, shut up. It is legitimately just like it burns, like just it wells up a fire in my chest. I get so angry.
First world
Yeah,
twins.
yeah. So yeah, it is frustrating because my dad had the Alexa, and then he upgraded to the Google, and so he gave me his Alexa, and I wanted Alexa to call me Big Papa, but for some reason it just started calling me Big, and I was just so upset because it knew because Alexa can know your voice, and so I'd be like, Alexa, who is talking to you right now? And she'd just be like, Big. I was like, screw this thing, hate it. So yeah, I and then it got. I also did have like an 18-year-old, 19-year-old kind of like not stray away from God, but I definitely wasn't like, I was just trying to just do me for a little bit. And I stole every restaurant that I'd gone to, or every time I went to the calf, I would steal a piece of silverware. And I did that for about 2 years. So I stole a lot of silverware in my time. So yeah, that was the most I've ever spent. That's the most I've ever stolen. But it is nice once you own a house, because like you never have to pay for silverware. So a lot of the silverware that I'm still using is from college.
Hey, paid off. It's an
Yeah,
investment
yeah.
steal.
I love it. And then so my favorite thing I've ever stolen, which I hinted towards the whole Grand Theft Auto or the whatever it's called, is I stole a golf cart at camp one time, and that was an exhilarating experience. And after I stole it, I think that the golf cart that I stole was faster than the rest of the golf carts.
Yeah, because it was Dave's.
And yeah, and I barreled down Tubing Hill with it, and it was the most fun I've ever had.
Define stole the golf cart.
So he was working on a toilet, or he was working on something, and he kept coming to his golf cart.
Can you clarify as to whether or not he was doing work on a busted toilet or whether or not he was sitting on a toilet performing a separate task?
I'm not sure. I assume because he kept grabbing tools, and I was like, were you there, Mike? Do you know the story?
No, I don't. You just said he was working on a toilet, and in my head, he was just sitting on a toilet, like with his laptop out. And I was like, I know that's not what he's
Whistling.
doing, but I'm gonna ask the. Yeah.
No. Well, he was working on something because he kept grabbing tools. And so while he was working on something, I hopped into the golf cart and I stashed it somewhere in the woods. And then I was planning on giving it back the next day, but then I got a text. We get like a group text saying that somebody stole Dave's golf cart and they need to return it. And I got freaked out because I didn't want to get fired.
Start taking off clothes.
And I start taking off clothes.
I don't want to get fired from Bible camp. I better run naked through the hills.
And so I had to it was poetic because I had to walk pretty much from one end to the camp to the other end, and it was pouring rain. I asked everybody if they wanted to come with me, and everybody said no. Makes sense. And yeah, I had a really good time. Going down a golf cart on just a super sleek hill is like the most fun I've had in open.
I'm surprised it didn't flip. That hill is can be unforgiving depending on how
it was very
no joke.
I was very grateful. Yeah, I'm surprised I didn't break the suspension. I don't even know if they have the axle, or I could have definitely wrecked that car.
Yeah, I think that one was gas powered. All the rest are electric. That's why it went faster.
Yeah, those gas puppies are way faster. I once rode a bike down that hill. You said Tubing Hill, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. There are some tire track divots about halfway down. And I've almost in my life never known fear, thinking I was going one direction and then hitting a tire track divot and being forced to cut in another direction. Yeah, it was just a truly terrifying experience.
Well, my number one's gonna be very underwhelming. It was when I was just a wee lad. I think I was definitely under 4, so I think I was 2 or 3. And my mom,
you murdered somebody.
Hey, let me tell the story. And we had this backyard with the chain link fence. My mom said, "I'm gonna go in the house. Do not open the gate door and go to the front yard." So I'm like, okay, whatever. And I think it just shows kind of how my mind works and how I process stuff. But she comes out and I'm climbing over the fence to get to the front yard. And she's like, "What are you doing? I told you can't go to the front yard." I said, as a young toddler, I said, "No, you said I couldn't open up the gate and go in the front yard. You didn't say anything about climbing over it." And that's just kind of how my brain works, where it's I might not break the rules, but I'm going to test where that limit is, try to find the loopholes and everything.
This is why we're friends.
Yeah. And I just think that's it shows that you do have personality as a toddler that can carry over through your whole life.
I asked my mom, I was like, "Hey, do you have any," because when I was putting the list together, I was like, "Do you have any good stories about me breaking the rules?" And she was like, "Man, I learned so early just to close all the loopholes with you." And it was the exact same thing where she just had to get a pre-law degree to be able to make sure she could have everything closed, so I wouldn't just come up with a workaround. That may be underwhelming for other people, but that hit home for me.
Thank you.
It explains a lot. I get it.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Top Podcast. I'm your host, Mike.